Hey everyone, it's Thomas again, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I have been getting a bit of some interesting comments on social media from my last YouTube video. Not my last one, but a previous YouTube video I made on advice for traditional Catholics and what to do when a non-traditional Catholic dies. I'm gonna see if I can put a link to that video in this description. Um, yeah, so some of the comments have been like, you know, this culture doesn't. Why are we giving into these people? Compromising with them, and what do you advise that? And they don't accept death. I'm not going to celebration of life or anything like that. Okay, first of all, I want to make a clarification. Not my advice. That's not my advice at all. I am saying that these are like delicate situations. When a non-Catholic dies, traditional Catholic friend or family member dies, like if they're Protestants, it is a very difficult situation, both pragmatically, what to do with it, and as well theologically, so as not to compromise yourself. Because there is a lot of pressure to take part in false rituals. I've had to tell my mother when my grandmother died that I had to stand there and tell her no, tears streaming down her eyes, that I could not sing a hymn at my Baptist grandmother's funeral because that would violate my faith. Uh, it's a complex situation, and so and so trying to promote traditional Catholic understandings of death to your non-Catholic family members when you're the lone traditional Catholic in the entire family uh, is simply not realistic. Unfortunately, and believe me, hence why I'm making some of these YouTube videos about the faith. And the tensions at that time can be very high, and these are like you're dealing with people who have very, very, very different attitudes on what what death means, how to have a different attitude towards death, and in practice, you pretty much have to bite your lip, keep to yourself, not compromise yourself, and pray by yourself. And if you try to push back against their attitudes, their emotions at that time are very, very raw, and you're you're risking some very unpleasant reactions. I know of one case. I'm not gonna say who it was in this YouTube video. I know a woman who she passed away. There are two sisters. Um, there one wanted to divide the ashes, the other didn't. And one of them didn't like the one that when the one that wanted the ashes divided didn't get what they wanted. They to- took she took her mother's urn and waved it up in the air back and forth like this in protest, and yeah, it's a very complex time, and so you do need to be. So I think it is wise and prudent to be realistic about what to expect. That being said, I think they do have a great point. We do need to we do need to challenge our culture's attitude towards death, and there is a way to go about it. I do have some ideas on that regard. So anyway, first of all, um, I got about five suggestions on how to do that. That are simple and practical advice. Aside from pray, 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 obviously. Um, Before that, I just want to remind everyone: be realistic what to expect. I've seen minister clergymen of other denominations, because I've been to non-Catholic funerals, where the ministers tried to challenge certain the atheistic attitudes towards death. I've seen some very interesting reactions. You need to accept that a chunk of the crowd may not be very receptive to that audience. You also need to be diplomatic, not lie, don't beat around the bush, but say the truth, but say it as politely as you can. And hence why in my previous video I recommended things like, say, if you can have an after mass gathering as a traditional Catholic at a Catholic funeral, maybe then you can have some eulogies there and include some non-Catholic family members, and they will appreciate it. And because they feel like their concerns and feelings have taken into consideration without compromising the faith, they'll probably be more likely to have a little more respect for you, willing to listen to what you have to say about the faith and how you view life, how you view death. Um, so anyway, some like 5 things you can do as a traditional Catholic at a traditional as a traditional Catholic to challenge um our society's non dealing with death. Um, Bad news is that pretty much this is all for when you die. Sorry, but uh there are some things you can like some instructions you can leave. So number one, this is like a big one, huge. Print out bulletins explaining what's going on and significance, what's going on. So, a lot of traditional Catholics, I think I like a lot of us have like a traditional Catholic Latin Mass missal. If you're traditional Catholic, non-traditional Catholics do not know what a missal is. Literally, I mean literally. Period. Full stop. They don't know what a mass is. Quite often, if they're non-Catholic. So it is so a very prudent thing for them to even and so to even so what say they have no clue what's going on, they have no clue about the attitudes. It's not that even so much that they reject these our attitudes towards death, it's that they've never heard of them quite often, or that they're so having a printout of bolts. So my advice would be when you die, have it that you want a bulletin printed out. One side of Latin, the other side English, in like red ink. Have an explanation, brief explanation about what's going on in each part of the mass. Why are we having a mass for the dead? What's the significance of a funeral mass? What are traditional Catholic beliefs, approaches to life after death, and in each detail? And like, what's the point of this all? Why is this so important to this person to be buried this way? And why aren't we doing eulogies? It'll help explain. It'll make not only will, this is a good idea. Not only will it make it. Not only is this will it make the non-Catholic visitors more comfortable. Not only will it make them feel more at home because they know what to expect. It's also a very easy way to educate them as to how traditional Catholics view death, what we believe about death, and life after death, and the significance of all these things. So you could put in those bulletins like all sorts of information about like how to handle life after death. And even if they don't convert, this for most of them, this will for a large chunk of them, anyway, this will probably be the first time they have ever heard anything, anything at all about the traditional Catholic approach to death. Period. And it probably won't convert them right away, but at least they'll be a little more educated about it and understand it a bit more. Number two, have an make sure the priest has an intelligent and clear sermon for the funeral mass. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I'm sorry. This is something that I'm sorry to say that even among traditional priests, I love you, but it needs work. Um, it really needs a lot of work. Um, most funeral masses I've heard of are rather like it's often a missed opportunity to like explain in the sermon purgatory, hell, why we pray for the dead, why this is we consider this like normal, like we don't presume that the person was perfect in life. That's not how we approach death. And we think it's just natural and healthy to cry over someone's death. That yeah, the person wasn't perfect, they're sinner. That's why we're praying for them. So is pretty well everyone else in this church or funeral home right now, and so that's why we're praying for them. Um, this is going to be totally alien concept for approaching death for like all the for large for pretty much all the visitors. It's unless you're Eastern Orthodox, um, secular atheist. Pretty well everyone has a very you always oh, they're at peace, oh, they're not in pain anymore, etc., etc. It's going to be a new concept to them. And you literally have a pulpit, literally, to explain to them, and I seldom see it used. So if you're a traditional Catholic priest watching this, please explain about purgatory at sermons at funerals. Like, um, explain these things. Explain purgatory briefly, diplomatically. Um, and it'll be the first time for a lot of people hearing about it, especially at funerals. Um, Number three, invite the priest to stay after the mass and socialize and chat with the visitors. Uh, this seems like this seems like a very socially thing, but look, until I was decided to become Catholic, I never met a Catholic priest, traditional or otherwise. I was 16 years old. I don't think I even once spoke with a Catholic priest ever. Uh, so yeah, so at a traditional Catholic funeral mass, this may be the first time for some people even meeting a priest. Period. Traditional or non-traditional, modernist, liberal, whatever. A lot of them may have never even seen a priest. It's good to introduce them. If he's there and he's polite, that is a good way to promote the faith, as well as answer any questions about what was going on. At the funeral mass, like what was going on. So how do you find it? What you think? You can be here politely. What you think? He can explain things. Um, because for a lot of these people, it's going to seem very strange, and the Requiem Mass is going to seem very strange, and exotic, and foreign. And the priest can do what his job is basically, and explain to people what it's all about. So I highly recommend having the priest there after the mass, socializing with everyone there, all the mourners, and that's a piece of it. Another piece of advice I would have. Um, Four, if you really want to go go all the way, go all the way. Um, have some traditional Catholic literature given out with along with the have some traditional Catholic literature given out, especially with Purgatory, along with all the along with the bulletins stuff. Some of it may go in the trash. Let's be honest, people do that, but some of people just take a look at what's this and find it interesting. It'll be it'll be a stepping stone. And also, if you were a also, if people knew you're traditional Catholic in life, it'll be like they'll look at him like, yeah, he will. I know him, knew him. He put it in his will to do this. So it won't be. Oh, it'll be seem strange, but it won't be overly shocking to them if they knew who you if you knew they knew about your faith and life, and they'll probably even find it kind of humor. They'll probably even find it kind of humorous that you did even from beyond the grave were able to share the traditional Catholic faith with them even after death. So yeah, that's another way of doing it. Number five, if you really want to, again, this is going to be one. This is going to be a little more difficult, especially this day and age with shortage of priests. More memorial masses, like years after your death. Now, this one's going to be like I know it's an old custom, like on anniversary of your death, having a traditional Catholic requiem mass. This is going to be one of the more difficult ones to accomplish. Um, uh, but it is something you can do. It's great, but it's worth having sensible expectations. Like with a lot, like with Protestant society, secular society, unless it's like war memorial or something like that, you have a funeral, if you 30 minutes, one and done. That's it. You don't speak of them ever again, except when you go through photos or anything, something like that. Um, even getting an invitation will, however, will let them be aware that hey, there is another way of looking at this. That there are people who do pray for people years after someone who has died is considered normal and healthy in that context. Even if they say it's worth it, it's worth it because at least exposes them to that idea. Uh, it's gonna be really hard to get traditional Catholic priests to do annual masses, or anything like that, or anniversary of someone's death. because of the number of traditional Catholic priests available. You could try maybe at the rosary meeting, but like again, it's going to be even harder to get them to show up. And let's be honest, you may get some people who are full on hostile. Unfortunately, especially because once the funeral is done, the attitude is like, okay, I don't have to speak with this person anymore half the time. Um, but it is worth trying if you really want to challenge it. So yes, but overall, like I do one thing when it comes if you one piece of advice, like my mother is an organist. She's her bread. A lot of our food growing up came from her playing for funerals. And my earliest childhood memories are me playing in a funeral home. I've been to like Protestant funerals, Catholic funerals, Orthodox funerals. I've seen all the politics. I've seen the go on around death. So like, but one piece of advice I would give, especially traditional Catholics, is that if you are serious about challenging modern society's views on death, which by the way we should do, we need to do, we have an obligation to do. Um, we need to be you need to be diplomatic about it. We need to be realistic about is realistic about it, but what we can expect. We also need to be firm about things, and we need to explain clearly what we as traditional Catholics believe, what we think, and we can't assume that they're just rebelling. Like it is, Vatican II has been many years, and the Protestant Reformation happened over 500 years ago. There's a lot of not dealing with death, or or like there's a lot of secular Protestant hallmark Christianity in our culture around death. Let's be honest with that. It's not a good thing, but it's there, and it's very entrenched, and it's going to take time to root it out. Um, but it's a step that we can and should take. Um, it's a step we can and should take, and do it with charity, but correct. So anyway, those are just like 5 simple things you can probably do to like to challenge or challenge our the hallmark attitude towards death in our society. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless you all.